Listen to this episode if you are stuck in a rut or a business plateau and you are wondering what the best first place is to look. Today, we're talking about something that the majority of business owners overlook. Truly 95% of business owners do this one thing wrong, and I'm sure you are on this list as well. However, the top 5% most successful people understand this concept. They understand what we are going to talk about today is one of the pieces that makes them actually so successful. Right now, you're probably feeling like you're doing all of the things. You're posting consistently, you're pitching the influencers, you're fulfilling the orders, you're building out the email funnels, maybe you have a team. You feel like you're doing all the things, but you also feel like you have a million ideas in your head all the time. I always say I have 12 thoughts at once. You add this and you add that and you try a little bit of this and you try a little bit of that, and then you have this harebrained idea in the shower and you're like, ooh, I'm gonna go do that. And then you spend all day doing that, all week doing that, and then next week it's another thing. But yet you feel like your growth is kind of just slow because you feel busy, you feel like you're doing a lot of new things, you feel like you're hitting the objectives. However, your growth isn't actually happening. So why does it feel so marginal? Today, we are really going to talk about this silent killer in business and what's going to actually move the needle. Instead, we're going to get into the nitty gritty of this, really truly think of this as a masterclass and a reflection of how you are currently running your business and what we can actually do instead. Again, this is something that 95% of business owners, a problem that they have, a mistake that they make, and you're probably in that list as well. You will leave this episode with a pep in your step at the very least, and at the very most, an understanding of what exactly you actually need to prioritize to get you out of this growth rut. I know as this episode is coming out, it's like middle to end of November, which means we've already started the holiday season. Maybe you're feeling like your holiday sales haven't grown as much as you thought they would. Maybe your annual sales haven't grown as much as you thought they would this year. Maybe you're just feeling a little bummed as to where you are in general, or you just wanted quicker growth, and there's nothing wrong with that. You can be growing and still want to be growing more. And so this is what we're diving into today, the major gap. We're going to get into it right after I just introduce myself. I just want to take 10 quick seconds to say hello. My name is Madison Page. I'm a business growth specialist, and I teach small businesses how to turn into brands, because every single brand out there started as a small business and now they are brands, which is where we are trying to get you as well. I just have to address the elephant in the room. I did move, which means I am in a new podcast studio. Please bear with me. It is under construction. This is phase 1. You will really get to see the developments of it all. We are elevating our production. Over 60% of you guys watch the video, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify. And so I might as well have a pretty video for you to watch. That's not just me, also my surroundings. So we have a lot to come in this, but I'm super excited about having this new space and really having a fun space for me to bring this information to you. Without further ado, today we're talking about the silent killer. That silent killer is dopamine. And before you exit off of this and say, Maddie, dopamine is fun. It's literally the fun side of business. Like, am I not supposed to have fun? What the heck is going on? If you think that I'm here to tell you you're not supposed to have fun in your business, you clearly haven't been here for too long, because that is one of my biggest MOs. However, the true killer here that is really putting your major growth levers on the back burner is you chasing all of these fun, new, shiny ideas, as opposed to really doubling down on the things that are boring. I want to today help you identify the things that you are putting off that are actually the thing that is going to be the catalyst of your growth, because we all have these pieces. We all have these pieces that, whether it's conscious or not, we know that we are not doing them for a certain reason, whether that is posting on social media, whether that is, reaching out to the influencers, whether that is reaching out to that friend that would be able to get you this big connection. We all have these things that we're like, I know I should be doing this. I know that this is the boring side of business, but I also want to be doing all of these other things at once. And these other things are growing, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, the things that are actually going to move the needle in your business are the most boring. I know it's terrible. It's not what you wanted to hear me say today, but it is the truth. And we're going to dive into that. You are usually one of two people. One, if I ask you right now, what are the 3 to 5 things you need to do every single week in order to make sales? What are they? Take 5 to 10 seconds here. What was that initial gut reaction? If I told you you needed to make $1,000, $10,000, whatever this week, whatever your kind of benchmark is, what are the 3 to 5 things that you would do in order to make those sales? Like if you had to make sales this week, what are the objectives that you would do? Now there's one of 2 of you in this situation right now. Some of you list off those 3 to 5 things immediately. For you, my question is, how often are you actually doing those things? Are you doing them weekly? Are you doing them daily? Are you doing them bi-weekly? Are you doing them a little here and there? And the next one, some of you don't actually know what your growth levers are. And we're going to talk about that as well. Some of you are sitting there being like, Maddie, I wish I freaking knew because I would be doing those things. We're going to talk about what they really should be for you. And that's okay. My question for you is, what needs to be prioritized in order to learn what your growth levers are? For most of you, it's going to be marketing, it's going to be branding, and it's going to be sales. Because truly, if you want to make 7 figures in your business, you need those 3 things to get to the first truly $1 million after working with, hundreds of businesses, working with businesses that have sold for millions of dollars, working with businesses that are in all different stages. The 3 pillars you need in order to hit 7 figures is branding, marketing, and sales. It's what I do with every single one of my clients because those 3 pieces are what get you there. It's what gets you that community. The true silent killer in your business is getting bored, and starting to try something else immediately upon getting bored. And then you throw all of those needle mover things away, even though you know darn well you should be prioritizing brand building, relationships, marketing, sales. I truly see this most often in marketing, and it is the bane of my existence is when people come to me and they say, Maddie, I'm not making sales. Maddie, I'm really struggling to make sales. And then I look at their social media and they're bebopping around 1 to 2 times a week. It is whipped together very clearly, even though marketing is the vehicle to your business growth, especially in the beginning phases. If you aren't yet 2 consistent sales, you don't yet have 6 figures, multi-6 figures, and you are not marketing consistently, no shit, you are making money. Because your marketing is how people are actually going to buy from you. And so often people get wrapped up in the production, in the creating of new products, in the, I want to just make my products, I want to ship my products myself. You might be reaching out to influencers, you might be doing all of these other bright and shiny things. But at the end of the day, if people come to your social media or your marketing hub, the hub of your community, and it is not up to snuff of where they would want it to be, they're bouncing and they're not purchasing from you. You can run ads, you can run PR, you can have influencers sending pieces back to your social. But if you're marketing the home of your community, the vehicle to your growth, the landing pad for everybody that's looking to buy from you is still down and out, people don't really know what's going on with it. It's kind of just thrown together because it's on your back burner. If that's your reality right now, and yet you're saying that your sales are slow and you're doing all the things, but nothing's working, marketing has to be your priority. Marketing should be boring because when you know the 4 pillars you're supposed to touch on and the messaging and the framework of how to really do it, it gets to be boring because all you're doing is executing the same thing over and over again. If you have those 4 pillars of your content, and the 4 major pillars, I teach 4 pillars of feed content. All my clients know that. I teach 4 main pillars of your feed content. And then we identify what are these topics that you have to talk about. And then we're testing a whole bunch of things. And we identify, those are the 4 pieces of content you need to post in order to grow, get visibility, nurture, get them into your community, and sell to them to actually buy from you. So right now, I want to ask you, what do you need in order to be successful? How often are you doing that right now? Well, with intention, with taking real time on it. How much time are you actually spending on it per week? Because if we looked right now at your week as the business founder, as the CEO, as the owner, whatever you want to call yourself, how much of your time is spent on the growth levers and how much of your time is spent in the business, just like doing the normal chaotic things that aren't actually leading to growth? In the delivery, in the production, in the shipping. What I want you to reflect on is what is the disparity here, whether you know your growth levers or not, what is the disparity here of where you are really trying to go? Because it really, like, truly marketing is the piece that I want to talk about here. Because it drives me crazy, like I said, bane of my existence, for people that are trying to hit their first 6 figures, multi-6 figures, even 7-figure year, and they have marketing on the back burner. Because marketing is the vehicle to your growth. I say this to my clients a lot. They say, Maddie, I have the ability to fulfill, and we already outsource. They make our products, they produce our products, but I don't feel like, what do I do? I have people come to me once we do a lot of these things. They're like, I feel like I'm not actually doing anything. Like, I don't know what to do, but yet I look and they're whipping together their marketing. And at first, it's going to take you some time. People are like, Maddie, it takes me an hour for a post. At the beginning, if we look at the 4 stages of learning, unaware, aware, learning, and mastery, you're right now, maybe you're unaware. You don't know what you don't know. And then when we look at aware, you're like very consciously, laboriously having to figure this out in order to get good at it. Marketing is a skill. And so if marketing right now is on your back burner, you need marketing. If you are growing, you need marketing. If you are building, you need marketing. If you are scaling, you need marketing. And I see this with businesses that I work with that are making millions of dollars, is just because their sales have maintained at a certain point and they're quote unquote successful, that they dial back their marketing, or at least the effort that they put into their marketing, or the depth of which they market. But you're actually doing yourself a disservice because you are not actually bringing in the new sales that you could if you were to just market. The thing that will get you the biggest business growth are the things that you are avoiding right now. So right now, what are the things that you feel like you should be doing? Going back to that first question. If you had to make sales this week, and we can say if it's life or death, or you have a huge bill coming in, what are those 3 to 5 things that you needed to do to make sales this week? How often are you doing them? How often are you doing them well? How much time are you spending on them? How much are you analyzing them? The boring things you should be doing, but are not doing, are the things that are going to make you the biggest change. So I want you to think about that right now. Is it showing your face on social media? Is it finally creating videos? Is it, showing up on Instagram stories as like a real authentic person? Is it just making social media content that's quality in general? Is it hiring somebody for your marketing? And it doesn't just have to be marketing. It can be your website. Do you know your website sucks? But you haven't really wanted to hire the person, and it's kind of a lot of money and like this and that, and like you kind of bebop around the idea and you just never do it. It's on your someday list. Have you been wanting to really develop your brand, maybe get quality product photos, get some of the creative there, but yet you haven't? That is the thing that is making your growth hard, is because you're actually personally jeopardizing the growth of your business. You're like self-sabotaging the growth of your business by doing that. Now, if you're sitting here and you're saying, Maddie, I am doing these things, but they just aren't working, that's on the other side of this. There's one thing to say, because I know a lot of people do this. I hear it all the time. They're like, I wake up and then I eat some breakfast. I sit down, I answer some emails, I fulfill some orders, I, answer some DMs. All of a sudden it's like noon, 12 o'clock, 2 p.m. maybe. And then I'm like, shoot, I haven't posted. And then I sit down and I don't know what to post. So I just grab a product photo or a video that I've posted 10 other times and I just toss it up there. Those are the things that are going to make you the most growth, are the things that you are putting off and that you are not actually putting effort into. Again, for most people, it's brand, marketing, and sales. So in those 3 buckets right now, I want you to ask yourself, what have you been putting off in those buckets? And so if you are somebody that feels like you're sitting here and you are doing those things, you are posting what you feel is very quality content multiple times a week, you are spending a lot of time on it, you're doing it very intentionally, yet it's still not working. That's on the other side of this. You don't have that on the back burner. You just don't have the formula to actually make it happen for you. What you need is information. I'm going to make a whole podcast episode about this difference between identifying when you need information versus when you need integration, because a whole lot of you are feeling like you need information when you need integration and vice versa. The people that are marketing consistently always tell me, I just need to be consistent. You're already integrating, babe. You need information. The people that aren't, they're just consuming information. Instead of actually integrating, you need integration, even though they feel like they need more information. So we're going to talk about that in the next couple of weeks. So if you like that topic, if you feel like you're in that bucket, follow. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. You will find that there. Subscribe to the podcast. Hey, I'm jumping in here for 30 quick seconds for those of you listening and thinking, all right, but how do I actually apply this to my business? Every week here, I share strategies, case studies, growth mistakes to avoid, but your business growth is nuanced. So your business support has to be nuanced as well. That's why all of my support includes me inside of your business, your ideas, your launches, your content, perfecting what you're already building and uncovering your hidden opportunities to scale. This isn't a cookie cutter course. It's a high level personalized support system to help you optimize your brand, your strategy, and every single person your business touches. If you want my eyes and my brain on your branding, your sales, your marketing, and your overall growth plan, click the link in the show notes to apply. Let's see what we can build together. If you are unsure what your major growth levers are, that needs to be your first priority. Without this, there is no repeatable process that we can have. So what our goal is always in business is to identify, again, those 3 to 5 major pillars that make a difference. For some of my clients, it's influencers. For some of my clients, it's ads. For some of my clients, it's building a absolute ride or die community. And that's the home of their business. Every single person needs to have community building in there. But for some people, it's kind of their main pillar of business. So for me, my podcast is basically where the majority of my marketing is done. I have my podcast, I have my Instagram, I have other channels, but most of my people find me from my podcast. Hi, that's you. Most of the people listen to hundreds of hours of my podcast before they reach out to me. That might be you as well. Hi, I love you. I'm so happy you're here. And then many people come to my Instagram. And so I know that I need to put podcasts out. I know that I need to post certain topics on my Instagram because I know the topics that are going to be really helpful. And I know what I have to post on my stories to keep nurturing my community. I know my levers. I know what's going to happen. If I needed to sign 5 clients this week, I know how to exactly do that. But without understanding that through trial and error, through strategy, and through data analytics, I would not have a repeatable process to be able to say, okay, I want to make new sales. Let me go and do it. And that's a dangerous place in your business because you're running in a business that you're basically on a treadmill that you're completely out of control of. And so what you need to do if you are unsure what your growth levers are right now, you're like, Maddie, I could post all day long and I don't feel like I'm going to make sales. If that is you right now, we need to do everything in our power to understand that. If you are unsure of what your major growth levers are, this needs to be your first priority. Without this, you have no repeatable process at all. So no wonder you feel like you're chasing the next bright and shiny thing because you're chasing that, hoping that that's finally the thing that works. But in reality, it's still those boring things that you just haven't mastered. Again, going back to those 4 phases of learning, you're unaware, aware, learning, and then mastery, you're in the unaware phase. So you don't know how to get to that mastery and actually get it to work. And so there's a lot of phases there that we still have to go. So how do we really identify this? If you were a client of mine, I would sit down and I would look at your data because you do have things right now that are working better than others. You just are unaware of them if we have enough people in front of us. So you have data that's telling us what is working. We need to look at your data, really peruse through your content and see what content is leading to interest, what content is leading to eyes, what content is leading to sales, what content is actually performing better, and we can start to identify some of that. When you're doing these bright and shiny things, a lot of times, often, you don't actually ever master it. So you're doing influencer marketing. So this week you reach out to 100 influencers and then next week you don't reach out to any and you don't for the rest of the year. So you never actually master it. You're just in phase 1 of that process. And then you never go back and you never follow up. And so you're constantly doing these things at 20% efficiency. So no wonder it's not working. So first things first, we have to look at your data. What is working? What is creating an ROI? What is worth your time right now? The next one, how do you double down on the things that are working? So we look at if it's content that we're looking at. If we're looking at your videos that are bringing in the most followers and the most views, how do we double down on those things? How do we analyze what's actually working in that, whether it's a topic or a theme or a style or whatever with that post? How do we double down on that and kind of move forward? If there's nothing obvious here, because I have had people say that, Maddie, I look at my data and there's nothing that stands out, how do you learn how to optimize it? You're in the phase that you need information. Within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent anything, it should be clear if it's at least moving the needle or not. And so we should be able to see, is this actually working? Is it not? Do we have to change the game here? And so if you have been doing something even 4 to 6 weeks, if you've been doing something consistently for 4 to 6 weeks and getting no major growth levers, there's nothing really happening, there's no outliers, we got to shake things up a little bit. Your systems aren't just supposed to work. They're supposed to be repeatable. You need to know why they're working. So one week, if you bring in $1,000 of sales, it's not just like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I did, because then you can never do it again. And it's like this isolated situation. When someone comes to me and says, Maddie, we had a really great week of sales. I'm like, great, why? Dig deeper into it. Let's identify what that is so we can do it again next week. We can do it again every other week. And then we can pour more time and energy into those channels that are working for us. And we can kind of keep digging deeper. That is what's so important about marketing. And so when we look at this silent killer in marketing and in business in general, it's this shiny object syndrome. And I have full episodes on shiny object syndrome, but it's this idea that because you're never settled into the boring items, because you're constantly moving around, because you're constantly craving that next thing. I'm not huge into the human design. I don't really know too much about it, but I know I'm a manifesting generator to like my core, which means I love a project. If I could change my project every single week, I would. I love the building phase, which is why I do what I do. I love a new project, jumping in, doing this other thing. I love the newness and I love this dopamine hit. And so if you are in this bucket as well, is constantly chasing, I'm going to open a brick and mortar. I'm going to expand my product lines. I'm going to add more scents. I'm going to add more patterns. That's going to be the thing that finally works. That's not how it works. Adding more isn't actually what scales. Subtraction scales. Removing the fluff. You actually do a lot more in the beginning phases of your business to test. Like growth is like an inverted triangle. At the very top, we're starting wide to try to identify what your growth levers are. We can do a lot of things, identify what those growth levers are, and then we get narrow and we double down on those pieces. What you are supposed to be able to do is we have to test a bunch of stuff, which you've probably already done, and we have to identify what was actually working. Did you actually see it through? Because if you don't know what your growth levers are right now, that is a problem, because nothing is repeatable, which means you don't own your sales right now. You don't own your growth. You have no control over the success of your business. My clients leave knowing that if they posted these certain things, if they sent these emails and they just consistently executed, they would see growth. I actually have a lot of clients tell me, Maddie, I feel like I need to be doing more. Maddie, what else can I be doing? Because when they come to me, they're absolutely floundering with full lists of things that they're doing. And then I come in and I say, that's not working. That's not working. That's not working. Let's optimize this. Let's optimize that. Let's optimize this other thing. This looks great. And now go and execute. And then it's a consistency game. Okay, we're consistently bringing in 100 followers a week. We're consistently bringing in 300 followers a week. We're consistently getting 50 new sales a week. We're consistently getting 80 new sales a week. That's awesome. Now it's an incremental game that we can grow with. When you own your sales, when you control when people buy, you own the ability to grow. You know what it means to make sales, and it actually makes your to-do list a lot shorter because you're no longer meandering around what the things you should be doing are, or these other things, because it doesn't feel like it's working, because what you're doing is working. You have the evidence to prove it. You know you just need to be consistent. And then all of that extra time, you can now block out and say, okay, I can either double down on the things that are working or try something here, try something there. But you at least have your directed actions that are going to make a change for you, that are going to be working. If you are acting in a space right now where you have no directed intentional actions that you have been proven will work for you, that is a dangerous place to be. Because I'm sure it's frustrating. That's why you feel like you're on a treadmill. That's why you feel like you're busy, but you're also not making any sales. That's why you feel like your calendar is full, but yet nothing is actually working from there on out. So that means that you have a problem in the actual strategy and execution. We need information here. We need to identify what is working, what's not working, analyzing your own data, looking at the ROI of some of these pieces. This is the silent killer of product-based businesses, is constantly chasing the fun. And I'm right there with you. All right. I'm not standing here from my high horse. I'm right there with you. This is something I work on all the time. I rein myself in. Do you know how many product-based businesses I have woken up and said to my husband, I am going to start this. I came up with the most brilliant product idea last night in my sleep. I mapped it all out. I know the name. I know the brand. And he's like, you going to execute it? I'm like, probably not. Because I have to do all of these other things first, because that is what actually matters for my long-term plan. But I can dream and I can have these fun things, and then I got to reel myself back in. Otherwise, I would have a million businesses right now. And again, when we do this, we do everything at a 20% efficacy. Nothing ever really fully works because you're not actually ever getting to that mastery level. You're stuck in this unaware, aware phase. And then you're like, okay, but I never actually get to the learning or mastery because either you don't have the information or you're not actually looking at the information to know and to validate what it is. So if you're not looking at your data, again, I'm a data nerd, you know that. I know that it's not a sexy thing, but again, the growth is in the boring. The growth is in the mundane. The growth is in the things that you put off, that you don't really want to do or you don't feel like doing. If your marketing is on your back burner, that's priority one right now. I'm going to leave it at that because I just feel like I ranted at you, but it is an absolute necessity for you to do the boring things. The things you are putting off right now are the things that are actually going to get you to grow, whether that be personal growth, whether that be marketing, whether that be the rebrand that you know you need to do, whether that be finally, getting your website audited and because you know that there's a gap on it. The things that you intuitively know, this is not good, this is not optimized, this is not working, are the things that are going to grow. So why are they on your back burner? The things you're avoiding are the things that will actually cause growth. Why? Is because they're rooted in fear. They are your core fears that are holding you back from the growth that you want. 95% of our actions are actually rooted in our subconscious, which means that we are not controlling 95% of our actions. Our fears and insecurities are until we identify them and we work through them. And so what that means is that if you are just working in this capacity, you're only doing 5% of the potential that you have. The other 95% is rooted in your fears, it's rooted in your insecurities, and it's holding you back from taking the action that you want. Someone used to say this to me and I would get offended. I say, no, I'm perfect. I don't have any of those issues. And then I started to dig deeper and I totally found the areas that this was happening to me. And I'm sure it's true for you as well. And so I implore you, I ask of you to sit down and ask yourself, what are your 3 to 5 major growth levers that if you needed to make $5,000 in sales this week, what would you do? And if you don't know them, we need to identify them. That's your number one priority. Ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What is on my back burner that I know is going to bring me sales? And if it's marketing, step one, right? And if you do know them, how often are you doing them? Why? What is holding you back from that? And how can we make it a system that you are doing this however much every single week? It is your absolute non-negotiable and is your absolute priority. And then you stick to that every single week. The things you're avoiding are the things that are going to grow. The growth is in the boring. The growth is in the mundane. I know it's not very fun. I wish it was. Business is fun. Don't get me wrong. But your growth levers are going to be the mundane things that you have to do. And you're not just doing them now, you're doing them forever. And so of course we can hire people to do our marketing and all of that, but you are doing these things forever now and into the future. And so we better get on board because marketing is your vehicle to growth. These boring things, we can outsource them eventually, but they will not go away because that is actually what's bringing you sales. So stop putting it on the back burner. You can't come to me and say, Maddie, my business isn't growing, but yet you don't have the information in some of these pieces. You can. I will lovingly help you. Don't get me wrong. But this is the reason why. So I hope this was helpful for you. Again, I want you to leave this episode with a little bit of a pep in your step. If you're feeling like, shoot, I really need to get with the program here and figure this stuff out right now. If you're feeling like you're behind, you're not. That is never my intention here. You are right where you're supposed to be. However, there's a lot more for you out there. You are holding yourself back in ways that you don't even know right now. And it is these pieces. And so if we're really looking at the silent killer, after working with hundreds of business owners, ranging from pre-revenue all the way up to $50 million, whatever, this is a silent killer of many businesses at all stages, is they put things off, and the things you're putting off is your secret to scale. So I want you to go out there, identify this. Don't just listen to this and not implement anything. Don't just listen to this and say, that's great. I want you to get out there and really implement some of these pieces. I want you to set a challenge with yourself. Pick one thing that's on your list this week and start implementing it that you normally put off. And I want you to challenge yourself for 30 days to do that thing, whether that's content, whether that's creative, whether that's, personal growth, whatever that looks like for you. That is my wish for you. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope that you're leaving this feeling a little bit of pep in your step, a little bit of like, yeah, Maddie, maybe your tail's between your legs a little bit. That's okay. I'm here for you. And when I say it, I truly mean it. I love you. I'm rooting for you. I'm in your corner always. We put out new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. If you liked this one, make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. If you found today's episode helpful and are looking for more tangible ways to grow your business, make sure you are subscribed to the show. If you want to dive deeper into this topic more, click the link in the show notes and join our completely free podcast community where we dive into every single podcast topic, as well as give some bonus support and free coaching calls. And finally, if you are interested in getting my eyes on your business to find your hidden opportunities to scale, apply to work with me one-on-one in the show notes or on our website. Remember, it's not enough to listen. Don't forget to implement too. I love ya. I'll see you in the next episode.